Hello and welcome back to Vlad the Impaler. No idea how much of this game is actually left. It feels like we're nearing the end, but... As you enter the castle chapel, you're surprised to see just how greatly it has fallen into disrepair. It wasn't more than 10 years ago that you attended Mass in this very place, and yet it looks as though centuries have passed. The pews have split and warped. The altar is overgrown with lichen. The crucifix has been shattered. Dust and ash cover everything. Most disturbingly, however, is that the tombs of the other long-dead Draculs seem to have been recently opened. You cross the chapel, past the baptism font. Dreadfully sorry. There we go. You cross the chapel, past the baptismal font, where Vlad himself was baptized as a child, and you wonder just how this great man could have fallen so far. That's when you realise there is a woman standing against the far wall. You hadn't noticed her when you entered, because her dress is grey and her face covered with the same ash as the rest of the chapel. She stares at you with unblinking eyes. Let's try talking. What are you doing down here? You ask. Her voice is little more than a whisper when she replies. I was married here. You take a step towards her. You're one of the Draculs, you say. She slowly shakes her head. No. Are you dead? You ask. She blinks for the first time. Single tears run down either side of her face, washing away ribbons of ash. Then she nods. You take a step closer. Did he kill you? She shakes her head. Are you one of his guardians? You ask. She closes her eyes. Then she slowly nods. Her voice is even quieter when she replies. But I have failed. How have you failed? You ask, mere feet away from her. Fresh tears run down her cheeks as she says, because I was guarding his conscience. That stops you in your tracks. What happened to him? You ask. Her eyes slowly open as she looks at you from the deep shadows of her face. He sought to do good deeds. He intended for the Knights of the Dragon to help the innocent, to combat evil. But they've gone astray, persecuting everyone they come across. And the blood on their hands has twisted him, opened his heart to the influence of shadow and night. He no longer listens to me, only the howling of wolves and the mewling of his cold women. He is lost. Her eyes wander down to your weapon. Now there is one last thing which can affect his heart. She reaches a filthy finger to touch your weapon. There is a sudden flash of light blinding you. You step back, rubbing your eyes. When the effects of the flash finally subside, you're alone again in the chapel. Your weapon, however, now seems different. Almost as if it was a shinier, luminescent in the black chapel. You remember the werewolf, and press on up the black staircase, climbing to the heights of the castle. No stats gained, okay. To the east parlour then. At the top of the stairs, you find yourself in a long corridor, leading towards a pair of heavy oak doors. You gather your courage, and move forward, past the open rooms, along the side of the passage. Oh, I apologise for all the yawning this morning. Not a lot of sleep last night. But then, one catches your notice. Against your better judgment, you look inside. It is a salon-type parlour, as dark and dusty as everything else you've seen in the castle so far, but through the moth-eaten drapes along the far wall, you can make out a painting. On the canvas, a regal couple face each other, holding hands. The taller of the two figures is a young Vlad, dressed in an opulent and regal uniform, with a ruby-encrusted sword sheathed on his hip. Staring into his eyes is a beautiful Transylvanian woman in a royal dress of gold and blue. Your jaw drops. There can be no mistake. You just saw that woman in the chapel downstairs. Vlad's wife? He was married when he was younger? That's when you feel the slither of chilly fingers across the back of your neck. You spin round, raising your weapon, and yet you find no horrible monster, but three beautiful women in flowing gowns, otherworldly in the moonlight seeping in from the windows. Ah, Dracula's wives. I've already thrown those away. Oh, the thing is, I'm 99.9% sure those are going to be the three wives of Dracula, which means I'm probably going to have to cut their heads off. But at the same time, I don't like attacking people Unless I know for sure that they're evil. Because I'd rather risk it than accidentally murder an innocent. So, oh, let's do the stupid thing and give the flowers to them. As the smiling, shapely forms of the three women close in on you, you pull out the wild roses from your pocket. At the mere sight of the flowers, the three women leap back in terror, their faces twisting into frightening shapes, full of sharp teeth and piercing red eyes. So, you say, the wild rose does repel the restless dead. The three of them scream curses in Romanian, all of which you understand. Who is that woman in the painting? You demand.
Dracul's first wife,
hisses the blonde one of the three.
He's never been able to let go of her purity, her piety.
Is that why I saw her in the chapel? You ask. The three glance at you in brief surprise before shielding their eyes from the mountain flowers again. One of the brunettes hisses.
Even beyond the veil of shadow she tries to stay his hand, tries to draw him back to the light. Insufferable, even in death.
You've heard all you care to hear from the three Sisters of Darkness, and swing your weapon in a mighty arc, chopping down all three of their heads from their shoulders. Blood fountains in wild arcs around the room, as their bodies collapse to the floor. You drop a rose on each of their corpses and walk out, their heads still wobbling around the hall outside. There's only one task left to perform, and you turn your gaze towards the imposing doors at the end of the hall. Extra intelligence and magic. Okay. So the only thing that's not great at the moment is strength. Covered in the blood of the vampire women, you kick open the heavy doors and walk inside the audience hall of the castle. Three long pikes with sharpened spear points stand in a row along the far wall. Behind them hangs a banner with the symbol of the Knight's Order of the Dragon. Sitting at the desk in front of them is a man with long, dark hair. He looks up from writing as you enter. You recognize the face all too clearly. It's him, Vlad the Impaler. "You should not have come here, my friend," he says, setting down his writing quill. You step forward, replying, "And you should not have sent me to Istanbul, if the darkness I was meant to find was actually you." Vlad stands up from his chair, looking every bit the man you remember from better days. He says, "I had suspected that a great evil was rising, but my knights, no matter how many heathens they killed, no matter how many witches they flayed, no matter how many wicked men Emus had assassinated, they could not find the source of the evil. So I sent you, the best investigator of the supernatural I have ever known, because I knew that if you ever came through those doors, it would confirm what I had grown to suspect, that I had become that great evil." He releases the heavy cape from his strong shoulders to fall to the floor. "And tonight, you have proven me right." You watch as Vlad's skin cracks and splits, breaking open and sliding off as if a serpent was shedding its outer layer. Grey flesh, muscular and terrible, emerges from beneath. Long black talons end at his fingertips. Symbols of some dead language cover his torso. His face peels away to reveal demonic eyes and saber-like fangs, as bat-like ears extend out from the sides of his head, and from his back spread four membranous wings, which flex for the first time. Oh, I really shouldn't be yawning during this tense scene, I apologise.
"Look upon me, old friend," he says in a hellish voice, "and know that you are my final test, the last barrier before my great, blood-hewn destiny."
Well, that's horrifying. Okay. Okay, so right, that's finally what it required. Okay, let's offend. Right, okay, so let's hit the heart. You decide to dispense with a lengthy struggle and leap forward, aiming directly for Vlad's chest as he charges at you. The two of you collide in midair, but the angle was awkward and you didn't quite have the strength to pierce your dagger through his heart. What's worse is that the two of you collapse to the floor, with Vlad on top of you. His claws rake and slash, tearing and fanning wounds across your torso. Now, hang on, that said that I needed dexterity and constitution. It said nothing about needing strength. Alright, it's still paladin charge. Actually, no, let's use the scimitar of Eternal Flame. You leap at the vampire, bringing all of your martial skills to bear, as your blade cuts broad swaths across his headless body. Dracula screams in both pain and surprise, his eye widening at the blood that spews from his wounds.
How is this possible?
He snarls. You wonder the same thing yourself, then notice the slight glow from his weapon. The same glow that blinded you when the woman in the chapel touched it. With a roar of rage and a swipe of his cursed hand, an invisible magical force rips the blades from your hand and sends it hurtling into the wooden supports along the roof, where it splinters and sticks.
Now,
Dracula says, standing to his full bleeding height.
We shall see what you can do without your enchanted toy.
Okay, so I'd probably need a higher charm rate. Right, that supposedly needs Constitution and Magic, which are my two highest stats. Well, two of my highest stats at the moment. Better than hitting him in the head, anyway. Paladin charge. You summon the awesome total of your strength and charge the vampire, shouting at the Our Father as you swing and slice your way towards him. You're surprised when he catches your right arm before you can finish the attack. He looks down at you with a sharp sneer and says, "Your impotent prayers fall more on deaf ears than mine." And with that, he digs a claw hand into your ribs and lifts you up by them. You scream in absolute pain as your feet leave the ground. Dracula laughs, and then he throws you across the room, slamming you into a stone wall, where you collapse to the floor, your blood spilling out everywhere. Okay. So, I don't get this. It keeps telling me that I needed greater strength for those, even though that's clearly not what this is indicating. Okay, let's aim for the head. You know that to strike second is likely not to strike at all, so against a formidable opponent, and you leap forward, swinging for the vampire's head. His mouth becomes unnaturally large, and his neck swerves, serpent-like, dodging your blow, to bury his great fangs into your shoulder. You scream in agony at the pain and chill of his bite, and with a sharp twist of his head, he throws you across the room, colliding against a bookcase. Your shoulder hemorrhages blood from the large chunk that he's bitten out of it. Well, I'm dead. You have died at the hands of Vlad the Impaler. Yours is the first name in a long list of heroes to be murdered during his eternal campaign of blood and wickedness. The end has come, but there is more left to discover. Right, so that's what it influences. Here's the thing. You know, do those need to be at 10? Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's not exactly a very long game, is it, guys? I'm tempted to play through it again, but yeah. If anybody's really interested in seeing the heroic ending, I'll try and record a separate video for it, but I don't know if anybody will actually care enough. Suffice to say, I'll play through it a few more times, see variants and things like that, but yeah. That was very, very short. Oh well. Full review going up on Friday night / Saturday morning as per. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in future videos.